first began to assume its decisive shape over 2 days in May 1905, in the narrow waters of the Tsushima Strait. In what is now one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world, a small Japanese fleet, commanded by Admiral Togo Hayashiro, annihilated much of the Russian navy, which had sailed halfway round the world to reach the Far East. Described by the German Kaiser as the most important naval battle since Trafalgar a century earlier, and by President Theodore Roosevelt as the greatest phenomenon the world has ever seen, the Battle of Tsushima effectively terminated a war that had been rumbling on since February 1904, fought mainly to decide whether Russia or Japan would control Korea and Manchuria. For the first time since the Middle Ages, a non-European country had vanquished a European power in a major war, and the news careened around a world that Western imperialists and the invention of the telegraph had closely knit together. In Calcutta, safeguarding the British Empire's most cherished possession, the Viceroy of India, Lord Curzon, feared that the reverberations of that victory have gone like a thunderclap through the whispering galleries of the East. For once the aloof and frequently blundering Curzon had his finger on the pulse of native opinion, which was best articulated by a then unknown lawyer in South Africa called Mohandas Gandhi, 1869 to 1948, who predicted, "So far and wide have the roots of Japanese victory spread that we cannot now visualize all the fruit it will put forth." In Damascus, Mustafa Kemal, a young Ottoman soldier, later known as Atatürk, 1881 to 1938, was ecstatic. Desperate to reform and strengthen the Ottoman Empire against Western threats, Kemal had, like many Turks, taken Japan as a model and now felt vindicated. Reading the newspapers in his provincial town, the 16-year-old Jawaharlal Nehru, 1889 to 1961, later India's first Prime Minister, had excitedly followed the early stages of Japan's war with Russia, fantasizing about his own role in Indian freedom and Asiatic freedom from the thraldom of Europe. The news from Tsushima reached him as he was travelling on a train from Dover to his English public school, Harrow. It immediately put him in high good humour. The Chinese nationalist Sun Yat-sen, 1866 to 1925, was also in London when he heard the news, and was similarly exultant. Returning by ship to China in late 1905, Sun was congratulated by Arab port workers at the Suez Canal, who thought that he was Japanese. Excited speculation about the implications of Japan's success filled Turkish, Egyptian, Vietnamese, Persian, and Chinese newspapers. Newborn babies in Indian villages were named after Japanese admirals. In the United States, the African-American leader W.E.B. Du Bois spoke of a worldwide eruption of colored pride. Something akin to this sentiment clearly seized the pacifist poet and future Nobel laureate Rabindranath Tagore, 1861 to 1941, who, on receiving the news from Tsushima, led his students in an impromptu victory march around a little school compound in rural Bengal. It mattered little to which class or race they belonged. The subordinate peoples of the world keenly absorbed the deeper implications, moral and psychological, of Japan's triumph. This diversity was startling. Nehru belonged to a family of affluent, Anglophile Brahmins. His father, a beneficiary of British rule over India, was even rumoured to send his shirts to Europe for dry cleaning. Sun Yat-sen was the son of a poor farmer. One of his brothers died during the Californian gold rush that Chinese coolie labour serviced. Abdurreshi al Ibrahim, 1857 to 1944, the foremost pan-Islamic intellectual of his time, who travelled to Japan in 1909 to establish contacts with Japanese politicians and activists, was born in western Siberia. Mustafa Kemal was from Salonika, now in Greece, born to parents of Albanian and Macedonian origin. His later associate, the Turkish novelist Halide Edip, 1884 to 1964, who named her newborn son after the Japanese